Hey everybody, welcome. This is Ash for the Triple S League. I'm here as always with Obsidian, and we're also here with the Mad Queen again. Welcome.
Greetings, Earthlings.
Welcome, welcome.
Greetings. And so we're here to drop some more leaks about Cyberpunk 2077 and a bit about CD Projekt Red itself. A little later in this video, we're going to get into some of the rumors that have been going around about working conditions at CD Projekt Red. Is it a horrible, hellish place to work, or is it just a normal high-stress environment? Well, we'll get into that. But first, we're going to talk about what is coming down the pipe as far as the multiplayer aspect of Cyberpunk 2077 and something called a social hub. So let's just dive right into that. So first of all, I think I have a general idea, but what exactly is the social hub going to be?
So social hub is meant to like keep players interested in the game for longer periods of time, because you can interact with your friends, you can play with your friends, you can do some back and forth stuff. And they have repeatedly said that, you know, that they're adding multiplayer to this game. We know that for sure. They've announced it a lot. There's tons of job listings, which Mad Queen knows all about. And so we can assume that a social hub experience is really, really important. Mm-hmm. It's the question of how they pull it off, and if it's going to be like The Division, it's going to be, you know, kind of like Gag Me. If it's going to be something a little bit more interesting or a little bit more smooth. What was Mad Queen? What were some of the good social hub multiplayer games that you've played?
Well, actually, I am forever alone, so I am not a very multiplayer person. But I believe that in this game, it's a very important part, because we're talking about. I always say that we're talking about a role-playing game that is social, that is a team based on teamwork. So I believe that this is the part of the video game that is going to take us back to the role-playing game the most of all the video game. That's why I believe that it's going to be so important, and that's why I believe they are taking so much effort in doing so, even though CD Projekt Red is a company that don't have any kind of experience with multiplayer so far. So I believe that this part should be the most stressing for them, for this lack of experience. But yeah, I'm not sure how is it going to work, because in other kind of multiplayers, you're not supposed to assign quests yourself. But mm-hmm. I expect this game to do so. Let's see if I can explain this. So it would be very interesting if there were several kind of quests that were only available through the social hub, in a way that you would need the help of another players to complete them. Mm-hmm. So you have the solo version where you have some type of quest. Some of them are going to have some specifications for your character class, but then on the social hub you will be able to do this kind of quest where you really need a team of 4 people with different character classes. I think that this way of doing so would be very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we've gotten some leaks from the same source as we got the map data and the character classes before. And basically what it kind of boils down to is it was assured to us that it was not going to be like an MMO, and that it was not going to be a multiplayer. If you remember playing any big MMO at launch, you know, the big hub centers, the big town centers, the social centers were just like, you know, people running through people and stacks of people. And I remember when the Division launched, even there were areas where like you just had like dozens of people like cramming into areas, blocking doors. You couldn't, you know, move past them. It was a pretty rough experience. And that was assured that this was not the case, that they're approaching it completely differently. So the one thing that was stressed is that it's not like an MMO, that this is a mode that is under a lot of work, and that the engine, although the engine was not built for it from the start, they're now putting in a lot of effort and manpower to make sure that it is working. And it says that it's very big, it's a very big deal, and that they're going to be investing a lot of time into it,
right?
Because it's such a huge part of the plan, and that those keywords were stressed: is huge part of the plan, not like an MMO.
So I'm trying to imagine what that could be, because it's supposed to be seamless multiplayer, but obviously not an MMO, but not like the Division either. That was kind of, I mean, it seemed like an afterthought almost.
I can think in two different kinds of social hub. As Sib said, it's not going to be an MMO, but I am sure that if you go to the combat zone, this is going to be a zone where you're going to find lots of enemies, and I am not sure if these enemies are going to be NPCs or are going to be real people. So we can have a social part when you can assign quests and do quests with people, and you can have another social hub where you can have this MMO style combat with enemies, because we are constantly thinking that we most probably are going to be able to choose between the character classes, but maybe once you're inside the social hub or inside the multiplayer, you can also choose a gang. You can also choose a gang and go to the combat zone and do combats there and do some killing.
It's a fun Friday night. Yeah, it seems like
yeah, typical Friday night for a Cyberpunk.
So it would be a lot similar to like Watch Dogs in how they handled multiplayer, but this time instead of everybody playing the same person, we're all playing different people, which would be that's the biggest thing that just turned me off from that game. Is like went into multiplayer and it's like, hey, look, I'm playing against 5 other people who look exactly like me. That's that was not something I enjoyed. So in this case, then what do we know from the data digging? What do we know from looking at what Cyberpunk and like what's been laid out for Cyberpunk and what CD Projekt Red has said or released in bits here and there? We know that they've had multiple job postings for multiplayer, and that we know from this leak that they've had a team working on multiplayer to tweak the engine to work on multiplayer content, or systems rather, to work on systems for the engine so that it is capable of doing that from release. Right on.
That's what I say the most complicated part, and I am sometimes wondering if the multiplayer is not making the release date going later and later. They're really slowing them down because maybe they had an idea of what they wanted to do, but their lack of experience made them, rethink about what they want. Because in the rest of the things of the game, they already delivered a great quality in an open world, so we know that they don't. I mean, obviously, it's not an easy task to do. I'm not implying that it's easy at all, but they have the experience and they already proved that they are capable to do that. But the thing is that in multiplayer, as they don't have the experience, we are trying to think in terms of what the role-playing game is and what you can do with this role-playing, but I don't know if at the technical level they will be able to do everything that they want to deliver.
Well, the other really important thing to note here is the info that we got on the question about the social hub in and of itself. Like, is it more just the seamless gameplay, or is there an actual hub, an actual place that players will meet up, gather, and spend time doing stuff together? And the answer that we got for this was very interesting. Was social hub is important. They're working on a new thing for the bar, maybe a dance mod. And I was like, what do you mean? What kind of new thing for the bar? And the response was, think Gwent. So here we had more than one mini game in The Witcher. We had that wonderful poker game that you do with dice. Remember that one?
Yeah.
And then we had actual Gwent. And I was actually more of a fan of the poker game because it was really simple and really easy, and you could like pop in, do a couple rounds of it for fun, and then kind of step back. But I can see them like this really makes a lot of sense, because Gwent has been doing so well that to them they'd be leaving money on the table if they didn't try to introduce something to a bar, like some kind of a mini game. It is the future after all, and they have literally they could do anything. They could make a little arcade game that you play in a bar where you play as some white-haired magic sorcerer with a sword, and you're battling monsters in a 2D, like, side-scrolling thing. Like, as kind of a nod to The Witcher.
Kind of like the Pip-Boy games you can get in Fallout 4.
Yeah.
I think that would be, that's kind of what I'm picturing, is like a bar or something, a place you can go, and there's other real-world players there, and you can just kick back, play games, maybe, play a competitive game.
I've been thinking a lot about that, because there are, like, not exactly mini games inside Cyberpunk. For instance, Razorblade is a game that is practiced by a lot of people in Night City, but I don't know exactly how are they going to implement that, because when I think of a minigame, I think of a minigame that can be translated to a standalone version, that is going to be delivered for free, and then is going to have micropayments inside, the way that, Hearthstone works. And for instance, Razorblade is a game that I don't know how they can export it to a standalone version, because it's a contact sport. And I imagine this more or less like, when you were on Witcher, that you could fight some people, and in every town the people were stronger. I don't know if you remember, I can't remember the name of that, but you just, went to a group of people that were fighting, fist fighting, and I can imagine more or less the same. But I've been rereading the manuals in case I forgot about something, and I don't know if it's something that I eventually will find in the Chromebooks. But now that you said the thing about the dance, brain dance. That's the only thing that I can think of. A minigame based on brain dance.
Well, the brain dance, but there's also, we know that there's going to be bars in the game. That's probably a pretty for sure thing. They like that aspect of The Witcher, and that aspect really translates well. So we can reasonably assume that we're going to have some kind of an aspect that's similar to that, I think.
So then this plays kind of nicely into the next topic about the working conditions at CD Projekt Red, because, as Mad Queen was saying, they don't have experience programming multiplayer before, so this is a new thing they're trying, and they've been doing a lot of hiring, but there's been some rumors going around, even from some very high-profile YouTubers and such, that the working conditions at CD Projekt Red are just horrible right now, that it's a horribly stressed environment, that everybody's strung out, and that it's like the coders are practically walking around with shackles on their feet kind of thing.
And there's somebody who shows up and whips you every 15 minutes. This response, we got a response on this too when we asked, is there any truth to these rumors? And it came back very, very simple. It's like, really? Are people not aware of, how the environment inside creative companies are? Like, this is common in the industry.
I was going to say, that's sort of what I got from that response too, is that, like, this is it's no more stressful working there right now than it is at any other game company at crunch time. Like,
it's not about gaming companies. I've been saying that for a long time, and I believe that I didn't say that publicly, but I have a daytime job. I suppose you can guess that. I don't live out of my channel, and my daytime job is an art director. I am an art director for consumer products, for mass market consumer products, and I work for a lot of big people. I've worked for this for the last 10 years, and I'm going to show you that every high-profile company that works with creative people, the level of stress is, it's really big. It's really big. That's why since the first moment that this thing, started to blow and spread in the internet like wildfire, I started to say, so this is pretty standard. It's not pretty standard. It's absolutely standard. And not only in video games, in everything where the level needs to be so high.
So where are these rumors coming from that it's so horrible there that it's even, some people have said it's so horrible to work there right now that the game might actually get canceled, which is absolutely not the case. Where's this coming from?
There were literally 5 reviews on Glassdoor saying that the company was a bad place to work. And if they work inside this stressful environment that is, I repeat, absolutely normal, I understand that there are some people who really can't stand that. But that doesn't mean that the company is bad. That means that this is the way that high-profile companies work. So it's not for everybody. And I understand it's not for everybody. You can see in all these companies, people quitting because they can't understand the pressure. And on the other side, there are other people who work way better under pressure because they need to be pressured with deadlines to avoid going crazy with perfectionism. And there's people who really need that. Yeah. But there's people who can't stand it. So if you said, well, they have 500 people working for them and 400 says that the company is horrible, then I would say, I would agree. I would say, well, this is something more than stress. But we're talking about 5 reviews on Glassdoor. 5 out of 500 people. The percentage is so small. So I don't have enough proof to believe that there is a problem with the company, because the proof that I have so far, what indicates me is that it's just a regular, stressful environment, super regular, and that's just people who just can't stand it. And that's normal, and it's absolutely okay. But I don't believe that there is enough proof to say that there's any problem with them.
And we got an official message from CD Projekt Red, like they sent out a thing on Twitter, did they not?
Yeah, they sent out a message on Twitter addressing the concerns that it was a tough working space and that work on the game had canceled, and basically they really shot this stuff down.
Yeah, a few people have left and said that wasn't a good place to work, but that wasn't a good place to work for them. That doesn't mean that it's a toxic environment.
I find that some of the arguments that people are making as to why it's horrible, I find them a lot of them very problematic. You hear a lot of the same stuff is like, oh, all of the people that are heading up all of the departments don't know what they're doing. I'm like, okay, so if they don't know what they're doing, if all the heads of all the departments don't know what they're doing, how did they pump out 3 top-rated games in the time that they did?
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
The answer to that is like, oh, well, you had lots of people working on it. That's how it's good. I know lots of projects that have lots of people working on it. Just because you have lots of people working on it doesn't mean you get a good game.
And actually, there's a reason for people working in the lower levels of this kind of company believing that they don't know what they are doing. Is because usually when you work in this kind of products, there are lots and lots of changes. And sometimes you go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And if you are not explained why these changes are being done, you may have the impression that they don't know what they are doing. That doesn't mean that they don't.
They're not always going to tell you exactly why. Sometimes you just have to take the instruction and go with it.
In another company that makes big RPG games, I encountered several low-level testers who were convinced that they knew exactly how to make the game better, and that the game in its current state was absolute, trash, and that nobody would buy it. And if I were to tell you which of these games these were, you'd go, oh, you mean those blockbusting, top of the line games that won tons and tons of awards and are considered some of the best in the world? Yes, those ones. So just because somebody leaves an angry review doesn't mean that they know what they're talking about. I hate to say it, but sometimes your perception is skewed a little bit.
But people love a good conspiracy, so,
Yeah, no kidding.
So that's all the leaks we have for this video. We have more that are going to be coming in the near future. But if you'd like some more information about all this, there's a few things you can check out. First of all, there is our original leaks video that we did back on September 4th. I'll put a link to that in the description. Now, we get a lot of questions about our source for this material. The source is an individual that Obsidian has been communicating with for quite a long time, and with whom we've cultivated, a sort of a professional relationship of trust since before we even knew about Cyberpunk 2077. But on top of that, we did some of our own digging just to corroborate the information that we got, because we wanted to make sure that it was true and reliable. And so we went digging through all kinds of information to corroborate the information that we got on this. Now, the information that we put out in the first video has been picked up by all kinds of high-profile outlets, including Rooster Teeth and some other big YouTubers. And so far, there's been nothing from CD Projekt Red to tell us that we are off base. In fact, it all seems to be going in the other direction. We've been watching closely to see if CD Projekt Red was going to comment on any of this, and they haven't come out and addressed anything directly. But Mad Queen did have a quick interaction with Mike Pondsmith at one point while she was discussing some of the information that we put out. And he definitely seemed to hint that we were on the right track. Plus other information like looking at the positions they've been hiring for and all kinds of other things seem to corroborate this info that we've been getting. So we're very excited about this. So like I said, you can watch the original leaks video. I'll put the link in the description. Then we did a couple of podcasts with the Mad Queen about it. I'll put the link to those in the description. She has a video up now that she's just put out recently expanding on the social hub a bit more, so I will put a link to that in the description. And while you're there, sub to her channel because on Sunday she's going to be putting out a video about Minigames in the Cyberpunk lore. You heard her mention it in this video a little bit. She's going to expand that. She's been doing some research on that, and she's got some information that she's going to be putting in a video that's scheduled to go out on Sunday. She's also got tons of other videos about Cyberpunk lore and stuff about the upcoming game, including some live streams that she did with us. You can find it. It's a 4-part series of videos. It was a long live stream we did that she broke into 4 parts on her channel. That was a fun time. I recommend going to listen to that. It was a fun conversation. Thank you so much for listening on behalf of Subsidian and the Mad Queen. My name is Ash for the Triple S League, signing off. Hey viewer, our team of highly trained mind readers tells us that you like video games. So how would you like to support this gaming channel by doing something that you already do anyway? For free! GawkBox is a brand new service that lets you give tips to content creators just by installing and playing free mobile games. It's got some of the latest and best rated games as well as shopping apps and some other stuff. Just visit gawkbox.com/the League, find something you like, and tap it. We would really appreciate it if you checked it out, since we love making this content and we also like to, eat and stuff.